All right, let's review the Gigabyte M27U Advanced or M27UA. If at any point during the video you want to check out this exact same monitor, there's Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links, but let's talk about it. Firstly, this is a 27-inch screen size with a 4K resolution at 180 Hz. This is an IPS panel, and it does have a matte finish that is just slightly less intense than your average matte finish on a gaming monitor, which does increase clarity just slightly over, well, average IPS panels. For ports, this has one display port, 1.4, two HDMI 2.1s, one USB Type-C with 18 watts of charging, a USB Type-B upstream, and then three USB Type-A downstreams, and a 3.5mm audio out. Now, on top of this, the really nice thing this has is a KVM switch, which means keyboard, video, mouse. That means you can plug in your peripherals to the monitor, and when you switch inputs, it'll then switch your peripherals, well, to those inputs. So if you have like a Mac, Windows, and another device, you can keep the same keyboard and mouse, just switch the input and it switches right with it. That's really, really nice. For variable refresh rates, this has FreeSync Premium, which works great with G-Sync, although the variable refresh rate cannot be enabled with HDR at the same time, but this is primarily an SDR monitor, so it's not really a problem there. For the consoles, the PS5s and the Xbox Series X and S, this has full variable refresh rate support, but just not when HDR is enabled. So you kind of have to choose which one you want, either variable refresh rate or HDR. For full console compatibility, the PS5s and the Xbox Series X and S's are fully compatible at 4K, 120 Hz, and then you either get HDR or you get variable refresh rate. You gotta pick one, but a great monitor for any of the consoles. But let's get into it with brightness in HDR. Brightness here is solid, hitting just over 360 nits of brightness in SDR. When bumping this over to HDR, full screen brightness does increase substantially to just about 450 nits, which is great. That, very much increases the overall brightness. In HDR, you can actually adjust some of the color vibrancy and dark boost modes to kind of refine how you like your image to look, which is a really, really nice thing to have and is not as common, although seems to be becoming more common, which is a great thing. However, I really recommend going through the Windows HDR calibration tool. It's a free tool. If you have Windows 11, you can download it and use it, but this makes HDR really, really good. Out of the box, it's a little oversaturated and a little bit overblown. Once you do that calibration tool, it is banging, like it looks great. Because of that, I used HDR in many games a lot of the time, more so than you would expect. And again, it's not a true HDR monitor because it doesn't have deep blacks, but it's a really enjoyable mode to use this in regardless. It doesn't really matter. It looks a lot brighter, so in daytime, it can be more enjoyable. Definitely something I would recommend you do. But speaking of colors, let's go over it. This covers 95% of the DCI P3 color gamut, and accuracy out of the box was absolutely bang on, with the white balance testing at 6579 with a target of 6500 kelvins. That is absolutely bang on, guys. Impressive. Saturation was also great, but color accuracy wasn't absolutely perfect, but it really wasn't that far off either. If you're looking to do creative work like content creation, video editing, photo editing, this is definitely a monitor that can do it and do it quite well. Lastly, this can actually output 12 bits of color at full refresh rate and resolution. The contrast ratio hits 1000 to 1, and as far as backlight bleed, the quality control here is great. No backlight bleed at all, at least on my unit, but typically Gigabyte is pretty good about that. For response time, it is excellent. This is one of the best IPS panels with ghosting. It is absolutely crystal clear. Even at super fast-paced gameplay, it is absolutely crystal clear. You're not really gonna get much better than this, even if you go to an OLED, just because of visually how we process ghosting. The only thing you can really do to get better than this is have an extreme low motion blur setting, which this monitor does not have. But still, absolutely phenomenal with ghosting. Now for the stand and build quality, it's good here. Materials are good, the stand isn't overly big, which is nice, but this monitor in particular wobbles a little bit, which kind of bothers me. Besides that, this has height and tilt adjustments, but no swivel or rotation, and basic compatibility is 100mm by 100mm, and this weighs 9.19 pounds, so it's gonna be pretty easy to mount, which is great to mount to a monitor arm. For the menu system and controls, it's pretty typical Gigabyte here. This uses a single joystick on the right rear of the panel next to the KVM switch. This again is classic Gigabyte, fairly easy to find everything, but definitely needs a graphical update, as does, well, most of the industry. For internal speakers, this actually has them. They're decent, they're nothing incredible, but it's nice to just have monitor speakers because most monitors don't have them. It's great to use them in a pinch, listen to a YouTube video, but you're not gonna be bumping the music here. But again, we don't expect that. But now the most important section of the video, price and value, and should you buy this? This comes in at $449.99, and right away, I think this is a really good monitor. However, compared to the competition, this lags behind in one huge way. And that way is not having resolution halving. The competition, like the Asus ROG Strix XG27UCG, is just about the same price as this. And it has essentially the same specs. It's 27 inches, it's IPS, 4K, 160 Hz, it's got great brightness and colors. It actually has better brightness, but the Asus has the ability to drop the resolution to 1080p, but then have a 320 Hz refresh rate, giving you the best of both worlds. You want 4K at 160 Hz? You can do it. You want 360 Hz? Just switch to 1080p. Not to mention it also has a very good extreme low motion blur setting. For that reason, I recommend the Asus over this Gigabyte depending on sale price. If this Gigabyte is not on sale, definitely get the Asus over it. But because of that, I'll link both the Asus as well as the Gigabyte down below for Amazon links, just so you can check pricing and see which one makes most sense for you guys. And I also have a full review of the Asus you can check out right here. But this is Type-C Tech Reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next video.